Your daily dose of sports talk is here. Highlights, interviews, and analysis. From the entertainment capital of the world, SportsWrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed, and great to have you with us on this Monday edition of the show. Back from our final vacation of 2026. Now, through the end of football season, we will be here with you virtually every day, sans a holiday here or there. Busy weekend in sports to recap. We will do it with our friends Sam Yarnell, joins us most days here. Bill Bender of the Sporting News does a great job on football, college and pro. He'll join us coming up as well about 20 minutes from now. Get some thoughts from him on some of the big stories around college football as training camps evolve. The preseason top 25 came out right after I finished my conversation with him, so we won't be discussing that, but we'll get into that a little bit more on the show tomorrow, the preseason top 25. So a lot to get into on this show today. Odds and ends. Have some fun little surprises in store for you. We'll just kind of leave it at that. But we start things out as we always do on this Monday edition of the show. It's time for the big story. And the big story is presented by the Daily Wrap, our Substack newsletter. Monday through Friday, except when we're on vacation, you can get the Substack daily newsletter. It's called the Daily Wrap. All you got to do is scan the QR code. It's right there. You got your phone in your hand, scan the QR code. It'll take you to the Substack Daily Newsletter. You subscribe. It's free, and it gives you everything we're talking about on the show, but in more of a column style, a written format for you every day. The Daily Wrap. Go and subscribe today. Tommy John passed away this weekend. He's somebody I had a chance to talk to over the years. The former Yankee pitcher, pitched for the Dodgers, pitched for a number of teams. 288 wins in his career. Never made it into the Hall of Fame. Pitched late into his 40s. And obviously, when you hear the name Tommy John, you associate it with Tommy John surgery. And he is obviously the grandfather of the ligament replacement in the elbow that has now become so commonplace in professional sports. But people forget that Tommy John was so much more than that. That Tommy John meant so much more to the game of baseball as somebody that pitched late into his career and somebody that proved that you could have Tommy John surgery and pitch late into your career and pitch, late into your years. Guys don't pitch until they're 46 years old anymore. Now, Jim Cott used to have a saying. He used to say it would rust off before it wears off. And to this day, truer words have never been spoken. Tommy John was in hospice just a week or so ago when the Yankees held their Old Timers Day and sent a message to the stadium and to the fans celebrating that Old Timers Day. And you knew his time was coming soon. But he is a guy, to me, that belongs in the Hall of Fame. Nothing, we oftentimes oversimplify things. This is one time where I don't think you can oversimplify it enough. The Major League Baseball, the Pro Baseball, the Baseball Hall of Fame Museum in Cooperstown. We debate every year who should be in, who should be out. The writers, the Baseball Writers of Association vote on this thing. It is the Hall of Fame. Who has brought more fame than a guy whose name you utter every year in and out in baseball? And not necessarily because he had 288 wins, which people should remember, but the fact that there is a surgery named after the man. It is the Hall of Fame. It is not just the Hall of great players. It is not just the Hall that celebrates the best of the best and the top 1% to have played the game. It is the Hall of Fame. He is famous. His name is synonymous with one of the most important surgeries that revolutionized, that has saved careers in the game. And Tommy John belongs in Cooperstown with those all-time greats. I don't care how you celebrate it, if you want to give it its special place. You know, we talk about this with the PED era in baseball all the time. That the PED era guys should have their own place in the game. Bonds, Clemens, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, whatever you think of what they did. They belong in the Hall of Fame. It is the Hall of Fame. And Tommy John embodies that. He doesn't look like the guys, and he didn't look like the guys of today, the flamethrowers throwing 100 miles an hour or anything like that. But he is famous and known around the sport of baseball. And kids young and old, even in this day and age where kids young and old don't necessarily, sort of respect and honor the traditions of baseball, everybody knows who Tommy John is. How's he not in the Hall of Fame? Tommy John was 83 years old. Rest in peace. One more big story that I wanted to make time for today. Breaking news out of the NBA involving Steve Ballmer. If you haven't been paying attention to this story by now, I'm sorry, I can't explain the whole thing to you. But Don Van Natta Jr., Baxter Holmes, Ramona Shelburne have the byline on this for ESPN. The NBA, and I'm reading from it, says they have found no evidence showing Clippers owner Steve Ballmer funneled money through team sponsors to pay Kawhi Leonard in order to circumvent the salary cap. That's the reporting today coming from ESPN. But the league is still looking at a way to nail the Clippers and Ballmer because he may have introduced Leonard to team sponsors, which could constitute a violation of the league's rules prohibiting salary cap circumvention. This is an 11-month investigation now that we're talking about into this matter, and the NBA still hasn't come to a conclusion. Can they get it done before the season starts? I mean, my God, how much investigating do you need to do? How much evidence do you need? Something nefarious was going on here to compensate Kawhi Leonard. It's not difficult to see. The Daktronics story came out recently. You have the Aspiration story, which Pablo Torre and the folks at Pablo Torre Finds Out did a terrific job covering. Yet here we are, 11 months later, and the league still can't get its ducks in a row. So if you think it's just the WNBA that can't get its you-know-what together, well, the NBA and Adam Silver have their own problems too. And that's the big story. We're going to talk about preseason NFL action from week 1 of the preseason. Welcome back to the show. I've had my say in the big story. Let's talk some preseason. Week 1 of the NFL preseason in the books. Sam Yarnell is here to help us digest it. Yeah, the focus always goes to the quarterbacks. Sam, when we talk about guys that could start, might start, eventually will start in this league. So let's begin there and go all the way back to last week, because we were off on Thursday and Friday, and start with Fernando Mendoza and obviously his performance in the first preseason game of the year for the Raiders. A lot of people very excited about a lot of the throws he made. He did all the usual stuff after the game and said, I got to be better. He let my team down, blah, blah, blah. But start with Mendoza, and we'll work our way through some of these quarterbacks, what you saw, what you liked from him in game 1 of the preseason.
What I saw was very little, and who cares, man? Like, this is the thing that everyone loves to do every single year, is to watch preseason week 1 football and act like we're already in week 4. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here, people. Again, Jason, you and I talked about this last week or the week before. I can't even remember at this point. Half of the guys that we watched on the field this weekend are going to be selling insurance and bagging groceries in 2 to 3 weeks. Like, as much as I, more than anyone, especially on this show, would love to sit around here and say, man, I was right about the Raiders. Here come the Raiders. Look at them. Preseason week 1. You can already tell they're going to win a bunch of games this year. No. And you can't tell that about any team. Yeah, Mendoza made a couple of throws and looked good. Yeah, the Carolina Panthers still look as bad as they did before. Joe Burrow took a bazillion sacks. Nothing new there. The thing is, this is the first week of the preseason. The more interest, so there were a couple of very interesting things to me about preseason week 1. None of them had to do with the actual play on the field, really. The first one was, we're now, and I guess this should be foreshadowing towards the next collective bargaining agreement that goes on in the National Football League. We're seeing all of the starters get their dress rehearsal rep in preseason week 1, as opposed to, you and I remember when it was preseason week 4 back in the day, which then evolved to preseason week 3 when they shortened the preseason and extended the schedule. All of these starters playing in preseason week 1 tells me there's some conversation being had, Jason, behind the scenes where we're going to almost or completely eliminate the preseason in very short succession. We may get one preseason week going forward when we've expanded the schedule yet again, but that may be the 1 week where you have to dress rehearse everybody and play your starters for a quarter and all that. That was my main takeaway, is that we saw Bryce Young, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Fernando Mendoza. We saw all these big name players, the ones, as they say in football, out in preseason week 1. That was very interesting. The other very interesting thing to me, the jerseys. That's always the big, we're finally seeing the redesigned jerseys and how they look on the field. And although it's small tweaks all around the league, I thought they all looked really good. The Falcons looked good. The Rams looked good. The Ravens had a small tweak. They looked good. The Commanders' new jerseys looked good. The Dolphins I was fine with. And there's the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans obviously looked fantastic. So, those were my two main takeaways, is looking into the telescope a little bit through this preseason week 1. We're about to say goodbye, maybe altogether, to the preseason. And I think Nike did a good job with the new jerseys.
So nothing on Drew Allar. Nothing on Ty Simpson.
No!
Nothing on any of these guys.
Jason, you and I spent so many... The Drew Allar one is the most hilarious one of them all to me. Because you and I specifically have spent so many shows talking about what a disaster the Steelers are and giving the keys back to Aaron Rodgers. They're not gonna, take the keys away from Aaron Rodgers and give them to Drew Allar? What are we doing here? Yeah, Drew Allar will be fun next season or the season after, and we can talk about that when that comes around. But my goodness, this season, that guy's gonna do nothing but ride pine, barring some insane string of injuries.
And you never know. Those injuries could certainly come. Depends how they protect the quarterback there. Speaking of injuries, Jeremiah Love, high ankle sprain for the Cardinals. Why are you laughing at the expense of Jeremiah Love?
Because this was the funniest story all weekend. LaFleur says Love is going to miss a week with a sprained ankle. Nobody knew what team was being talked about, whether it was the Packers or the Cardinals. LaFleur says Love has a sprained ankle. Even M. LaFleur says J. Love has a sprained ankle. It was so funny watching two fan bases simultaneously be like, wait, are they talking about the other guy or us? That is so funny.
Why is Aaron Donald, why are we going through this charade with Aaron Donald when we know he's coming back? Is it so that he doesn't have to play in preseason games? Is it so that they can, I'm trying to understand. I'm fascinated with this dance that's going on with Aaron Donald and the Rams. He works out for them for a second time. And we're all sitting there going, okay, then sign already. If you're coming back, you're coming back, which is fine. I mean, we all love Aaron Donald. Who doesn't love Aaron Donald? I just don't understand the dance that's going on here.
Yeah, you were exactly right about the whole Aaron Donald situation. I mean, you saw it coming from a bazillion miles away that this guy was coming back. And yeah, he sure as heck is. I think you're right about the whole, he just wants to miss the preseason thing, by the way. He just doesn't, the guy, and I mean, we've seen this on social media. The guy stays in ridiculous shape all the time. He's a Hall of Famer already. He doesn't need to go through the gruel and grind of, the first weeks of the preseason. So let him sign in preseason week 2 or preseason week 3, get a couple of game reps in against, again, some guy who's going to be selling insurance the following week. And yeah, you're good to go. Aaron Donald's. Jason, you and I even both said on this show, he could sign by week 4 of the regular season and they'd still be fine.
Yeah, they would. Von Miller's going home. He's going to sign a deal with the Cowboys 1 year as they, I guess, try to shore up some depth, if you will. Miller posting on social media, here we go. He's 37 years old, and look, I mean, you put him in there for a couple of plays per game and hope he catches some magic, Sam.
I tell you what, man, and I vehemently denied it when you said it at the time, but I'm starting to buy on your Dallas Cowboys theory. And listen, I know, and that's not saying that I'm buying on Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott could still have a bad year. The Cowboys are doing this thing where they're just loading up their defense. Their defense is just loaded top to bottom, and now they've got depth in the form of like another gold jacket guy in Von Miller. The Cowboys may win a lot of games like you saw them win this weekend. There may be a lot of 17-7s in Dallas this year, and that may be okay. I might be starting to buy into the Dallas Cowboys defense. Might be.
Sam Yarnell, ladies and gentlemen, will be back later in the show. WNBA MVP race getting tight. We've got more football next. Welcome back to the show. Talk some NFL with Sam Yarnell. Let's talk some college. This guy, Bill Bender of the Sporting News, hangs out with us. We'll do some NFL with him in the next segment as well, because I want to get his thoughts, his early impressions of some of the guys that he was watching in college last year that are starting to get some run, obviously, in the NFL preseason. But, Bill, some injuries to go through around college football, and certainly some injuries of note. Started Alabama with A.K. Deer, and him being lost for what it sounds like 6 weeks, and what it sort of does from a depth standpoint, what Alabama's going to look like in terms of running the football, what Kalen DeBoer is going to have to do. Here, he's a redshirt freshman. Now, who was going to replace Jam Miller was the big question coming into this preseason and training camp, and now. You're looking at freshmen like Trayshawn Brown, E.J. Kroll. You had Daniel Hill last year who led the team in rushing touchdowns. Is it going to be running back by committee right now?
Well, probably. And I think the overall arching issue here is how do they run the ball? That's part of their identity as a program, right, Jason? Like, Adrian Clem, they bring in the old Patriots offensive line coach. I think that was a big move in the offseason. And now you need to find a way to generate a rushing attack. That's what caught up with them in the second half of last season. I know we're going to talk a little bit about Ty Simpson later, but you got to be able to run the football at Alabama. And Deer's injury is certainly a concern. And that's what I want to see from them this year. Are they able to complement their quarterbacks? And they like both of them. They haven't decided on one in an effort to get going in what is a more manageable SEC schedule.
If you're talking about 6 weeks, they're saying it's an ankle injury. If you're talking about 6 weeks, you're not thinking redshirt, right? I mean, he's going to get back this year and be able to be a factor, right?
Oh, I would think so. And maybe in the second half of the season where you work him in. But, I think it will be a committee. Jam Miller was the one guy last year where there was a physicality to him. They were, and he got injured. Remember, they were a different team when he was hurt early in the year. So I think that's something that Kalen's going to have to answer. They've got finesse team. And when that label gets thrown on you, it's not a good thing. Yeah. And I think Kalen DeBoer has that. And he probably desperately wants to get rid of that label. But I think that's kind of followed them a little bit, especially like I said, in the second half of last season when that running game crashed. I mean, go back to the Indiana game. They couldn't run the ball at all. Indiana had a lot to do with that, to be clear. But you want to shed that label as soon as possible.
At Miami, they have taken Cam Vaughn off the team. He's been dismissed. This is a guy who was at West Virginia last year. He was expected to be a factor in the passing game. Do we know anything more? Because the coach has been mum on the reasoning behind why this happened.
Well, another talented player they lose in Miami, helping them. Their roster's nice. When the polls are finished coming out and we do all the consensus polling and all that kind of thing, I think Miami sticks as that number 7 team. There's 6 teams ahead of them, and it's going to be what they are. But Miami certainly has the roster to make another run. And I was thinking about that this morning. How much pressure does Miami face in the ACC and the ACC as a whole when the realignment speculation never stops? The biggest game on the ACC schedule isn't Miami versus somebody else in the ACC. It's Miami versus Notre Dame. So, you have that kind of happen, and it's a distraction, at least this early in camp. But I don't know if that takes away from their overall goals to be the ACC champion this year.
Idris Farouk started all 13 games last season for Tennessee, and they lose their starting safety to a torn patellar tendon. This is a team, that's going to need every, hand on deck possible. How crushing a loss is this for Jim Knowles' defense?
It's bad. They're the ones that have been bitten a little bit the most. They have that, and then you have a suspension. Still trying to figure out quarterback with McIntyre and Brandon. And yet they were ranked in the coaches poll. We didn't have them ranked at Sporting News. They are kind of that line between SEC playoff contender and SEC not sure about, whether it's Tennessee, Vanderbilt, new quarterback, not starting the freshman, and then South Carolina with Lenore Sellers, who, by the way, they don't protect. He took 40-plus sacks last year, so they're going to need to protect him better, and I think Tennessee falls in that line. But if the injuries continue to mount up, Knowles is an interesting hire. We'll see how it goes, but the opinions vary on Knowles. I like him and I like his system, but it takes a minute to grasp. Very heavy on the safety too.
And look, it still takes players, and this team was 14th in the SEC in pass defense last year. It's going to take personnel beyond a coach to try and improve upon that.
Right, and to get that quarterback system, quarterback-friendly system going, it's got to be complementary. Last year, a great example would be the Georgia game. That was a game Tennessee should have won multiple times, but the defense couldn't come up with a stop, especially in crunch time. Now, granted, Gunnar Stockton made a handful of plays to make that happen, but it's a Tennessee team that's going to have to play better defense if they want to be in that class of playoff contender teams like Ole Miss, Alabama, A&M, LSU. I mean, that group that's like fighting to be that next playoff team behind Georgia and Texas.
You mentioned Georgia. Do you feel like, they are poised for a bounce back season?
Well, I define bounce back, right? Like if we weren't in the playoff era of the 12-teamer, we'd be talking about two-time SEC champions.
Yeah.
And I think, Jason, they're being not undersold, but under-talked about because what do we judge them on? Playoff success. And right. I think your point stands because it's bounce back from what? A quarterfinal playoff loss, which they've done the last 2 years. Gunnar Stockton, I like him. I think he's a baller. I like their defense a lot this year. I think their schedule's a little more friendly, but it really doesn't begin for them. You and I can pencil in Georgia for a playoff team now, but what happens when they get there? I think that's when the judgment starts.
Anything else but in the last 40 seconds here from training camp and off-season workouts and where we are now that sort of jumps off the pages to you about some of the top teams in the country?
Texas. That Texas roster is nice. A lot of great players, and can't wait for that week 2 game against Ohio State because that's when their judgment starts. Go in and win a heavyweight fight. And Arch Manning and all that, it's all going to come bubbling back when they play the Ohio State defense with all the talent the Buckeyes have.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, and just to close this out, and I got you coming back for another segment so we can expand upon it if we have to. That's week 2. And we know the way the College Football Playoff Committee judges these things. You're a different team by the time you get to the end of the season from where you are in week 2. So we can talk about that game, but at the same time, it's how you're playing later in the season that so many times matters. We'll talk more with Bill Bender when we come back. Bill Bender's with us from the Sporting News, does a great job on football. I threw something out at you, so I want to give you a chance to respond, because you were talking about week 2, Texas and Ohio State, and, sort of figuring out what Texas is. But again, what Arch Manning looked like early in the season versus what Arch Manning looked like late in the season, how we grade teams early on in the year versus how we start defining them and judging them as we get to later in the season, if we're talking about the college football playoff, are two totally different things, Bill.
Right, but I'm judging off the heavyweight fight. Like I use that analogy. I'll throw it to you this way. They've played Texas and Georgia 5 times in the last 2 years. Those are the heavyweights. If this was boxing, that's Ollie and Frazier, whoever. Georgia and Ohio State, at least in this decade. 0-5. They've got to go win one of those. I know they beat Alabama at Alabama a few years ago, the Quinn Ewers game, but that wasn't the Alabama national championship caliber team. And I think that's what sticks out with me. I'll believe in Texas more when they go win one of those games. And yes, I live in the Central Ohio bubble, but if they go out and beat Ohio State, that gets you that credential that, okay, this is real. This roster is real. All of these top 50 NFL draft picks are real. And that's why I said that game's kind of a barometer for me.
Let's talk about guys you were watching last year that are now in the NFL, playing in the preseason, either trying to win jobs or prove their mettle. Start with Fernando Mendoza. Obviously, he looked good in his first performance for the Raiders. He talked about plays he didn't make and how he let down his team and all that blah blah blah. The typical Fernando Mendoza stuff that drives me crazy. But in terms of being able to make the throws, there's a couple that really jumped off the pages at you. What did you make of Mendoza's first performance here in the preseason?
A couple things that didn't even have to do with the performance. How about the banner with the Mendoza in the logo? That's one. How about the 60 Minutes interview? Athletes don't get the 60 Minutes treatment unless they're the real deal or expected to be the real deal at very least. I mean, the last couple I remember are Signetti and Dan Hurley. I mean, you have to be a big deal to get that interview. All right. In the Ron Burgundy sense of the word, I suppose. But he can play a little bit. He can throw. He made a couple throws. It's going to be a process with that roster. But I'm just curious to see if that personality, which is goofy, and like you said, there's a little blah, blah, blah in there, but they seem to gravitate around him and his game. And as long as he plays well and wins football games, it doesn't matter what your personality is. Think about how many different personalities we've had in the NFL over the years. They're all different. We pick them apart. He's different, and that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, but is he going to be the guy that gets after guys? You know what I mean? Like, is he going to be the guy that gets on a receiver if he runs the wrong route? Is he going to get on a running back? Is he going to get on Ashton Genty if Ashton Genty misses the block that gets him drilled by somebody? I'm anxious to see that evolution of him because he's Mr. Goody guy. And I just wonder, is he going to be able to be that guy when he needs to be?
Well, does Josh Allen do that? I mean, like, I'm trying to think. We grew up, you and I grew up with, like, the Marino and the Breeze and the man.
Grab him by the face mask.
I remember Dan Marino just screaming at a receiver during a playoff game. And, I don't know what the answer. Yeah, of course he's going to have to. But I'm trying to think of a quarterback that fits that Marino description now. And I'm blanking here. Mahomes does it a little bit, obviously. But I think Andy Reid does most of that for him anyway. So, yes, the answer is yes, he's going to have to lead and prove himself as a leader because the Raiders are going to be losing some games this year. But I can't think of a quarterback that fits that type where you're like, man, yeah, that guy yells at everybody. I just don't see that in today's NFL as much, maybe.
All right, let's run through some of the others. Ty Simpson, people were wowing, And look, Dan Orlovsky during the offseason, credit to him, said he thought Ty Simpson was the best quarterback in this draft from a talent standpoint. Is he already being validated, or are you going to pump the brakes a little bit?
Well, we always have to. So when you turn on that game like I did, Rams and Chiefs, and you see Justin Fields and Stetson Bennett, you're kind of like, I'm intrigued. I want to watch these college quarterbacks play. And then it gets to the Ty Simpson portion of the game. And yes, it's a different game, but got the ball out on time. Didn't make too many mistakes and did some of the things that we just talked about it in the last segment. When Alabama ran the ball and was a functioning offense around him, He was pretty good. He was our midseason All-American quarterback last year. So it's going to take time, but that's a great first step of validation in terms of how they got Ty Simpson and how he might develop behind Matthew Stafford this season for a very loaded Rams team.
Do we forget the talent that Drew Allar has until you actually see him? And I get it. He's playing against 2s and 3s and guys that are going to be selling car insurance in 3 weeks. I get that. But do we sometimes forget how talented, the physical characteristics of a Drew Allar when you watch him and what he did for Pittsburgh in that preseason game?
Yeah, one thing I was thinking about during that, I was at the Oregon game last year. Remember they got down by a lot and they kind of turned him loose? Yep. And I was like, there you go. We're not throwing RPOs or bubble screens. We're throwing the ball down the field with a 6'5" quarterback with an arm, and that's what it looked like. So he's got some mobility too, and it's good to see him healthy. Interesting quarterback battle with Will Howard or Mason Rudolph. I don't know how they're going to do that. Will they keep 4 quarterbacks? I don't know if you can, but I think he did enough in that game, even against Green Bay's backup secondary, which, I had obviously as a Green Bay fan, I had thoughts about that. But, I think Drew Allar has a chance to make the roster and develop. And like you said, the talent's certainly there.
It's funny. We were talking, I did a SportsWrap original this weekend around how Tom Brady became a starting quarterback in the NFL. And it was because the Patriots chose to keep 4 quarterbacks in 2020 that he wound up eventually becoming starting quarterback in the NFL. Bill Bender does a great job on Football with the Sporting News. He'll join us every Monday. Thank you, my friend.
Hey, thank you.
Welcome back to the show. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. We have uncovered 3 hidden tracks from the Pat McAfee album. You're going to want to hear about these. It's coming up. Hi, Sam. We have fun, if nothing else, on this show. So, Sam Yarnell, who has, by the way, sampled start to finish the Pat McAfee album. I'm sure. You listened to the whole thing all weekend, didn't you?
And my ears bled. No, I haven't. I haven't listened. I haven't listened to a single song yet, unfortunately. As much as I wish I could say. I've seen the clips on social media, and there are some funny ones out there.
We got a few hidden tracks. I hear if you play it backwards, it actually plays the text from Project 2025. That's just what I've been told. Just what I've been told. So Sam Yarnell. Before we get to I know the segment says examining WNBA MVP odds as the season winds down, which, hey, maybe you had some futures bets in on at some point during the season and you're just dying to talk about WNBA MVP futures odds. If you didn't see it yesterday, I mean, look, Angel Reese is having the best season of her WNBA career by far. She averages a double-double. She is a force rebounding the basketball. The problem is she's still shooting like 30% from the field. It might even be a shade under 30% from the field this year. And yesterday, her inability to hit layups continues to be astounding. Like right in front of the basket, not be able to put the ball in the hoop. And yesterday, she missed one that would have given Atlanta a huge win against a really good Indiana team. She misses here it is. She misses the layup. For those of you watching on the TV side, you're seeing it. If not, if you're on YouTube, you don't get to see it because they'll block us from showing it. But on TV, you're seeing it. She missed a layup. The best part, by the way, is literally the shot of Caitlin Clark walking behind her after she misses the layup and just laughing. And you could see it. And it's like, oh, that hits hard. Now, who knows? Maybe it was just the weird timing and she was smiling about something else. But it looks like she's literally laughing at Angel Reese not being able to make a layup. That would have given Atlanta a win in the final seconds against Indiana. So she's having a great year. Just wanted to put that in there. And I even talked about it last week on the show. So we've got award season. And now you've got these MVP odds. And A'ja Wilson is still the overwhelming favorite to win the MVP, despite the fact that the media is trying to sort of pump up Angel Reese, or rather Caitlin Clark. Sorry, Sam, I have Angel Reese on the brain. Trying to pump up Caitlin Clark as a potential MVP candidate, the odds makers aren't buying it, Sam. In fact, they have Olivia Miles ahead of Caitlin Clark, with A'ja Wilson at minus 1250. Olivia Miles is 10-1, and then Caitlin Clark is the third best odds at 33-1. Is there any chance of voter fatigue? We saw this with Nikola Jokic. Is there any chance of voter fatigue when it comes to A'ja Wilson that opens the door for somebody else here?
No, A'ja Wilson has just still been the most clear and obvious dominant player in the WNBA. She's going to go down as one of the greatest of all time. And it feels like, especially when you think through like the early days of the WNBA media is one to respect that more than I would argue maybe any other sport, potentially soccer. Maybe you could say that soccer is more willing to recognize the GOATs being in their presence. But no, I feel like the WNBA throughout the course of their league's history has been very good at giving the MVP to whoever is the most representative of being a great of the sport at that time. And that's still A'ja Wilson, and it still will be, and the odds are reflective of that. This fever dream game we got to talk about, though, because especially from the odds makers perspective, right, as somebody who's thoroughly ingrained at this point in the gambling community, there were multiple people who were looking forward to betting the over in this game. You had the Atlanta Dream, who don't play great defense. You have the Indiana Fever, who also don't play great defense. And you have two teams that like to score a lot, especially the Indiana Fever. And you had a really high total for this game, which I think was even lower than some people expected it to be. It opened 188.5, ticked down to 187.5. We get to overtime in this game and still can't get over. I know, you look at a 95-91 score in the WNBA, you think, how the hell was that not a great game? It really wasn't. This wasn't as good of a game as we had us WNBA fans had kind of billed it to be, which I think was a little bit disappointing from a lot of perspectives. On the Angel Reese side, I mean, yes, it's great. She's cool. Yeah, her brother plays for the Wizards, who are going to be really good in the Eastern Conference this year, in case you haven't heard. But she had more shots than points. She had, 3 fewer misses than rebounds? Like, there's a point where, I get the production is there, but the chances have to not be there because the analytics just cannot be there for Angel Reese. And I know the WNBA, still being a very young league, has not had the analytics influx that, say, even the NBA has had, but it just feels like when that comes around, which it is very close to doing, Angel Reese is going to be phased out relatively quickly. It does not seem like there's longevity here for Angel Reese. It's been my thing since the beginning of her career, and I'll stand on it until the end. She is like the antithesis of analytical basketball.
Well, but analytical basketball for the WNBA might be different than analytical basketball for the NBA. And she does, look, she had 15 points, 14 rebounds yesterday. I get it, 5 of 16 shooting. You can't have it. The missed layups, you can't have it. She almost reminds me a bit of Dennis Rodman. Rodman couldn't do anything other than rebound and score with the ball, right in front of the basket. And she does figure out a way to get points. As she had 15 on, she had 5 of 6 from the line. She kind of reminds me of that. And I don't know, you might be right. That kind of player may not make it in the long run in the WNBA, where scoring continues to increase around the league. All right, we've got odds and ends right around the corner next. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Monday. Tomorrow on the show, Matt Verderam will be here. Does a great job with SI on all things NFL. Get his thoughts on, a whole host of NFL issues that I want to chat about with him. We didn't even get into Jackson Dart today, who decided to take on the NFL's blue tent over the weekend. Good luck between him and Cam Scatterbo. Good luck. That's all I got to say to John Harbaugh. A couple of reminders before we go. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. If you have not subscribed yet, go and do so. The audio version of this show available Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show, crystal clear audio. I promise it works just as well in its audio form as it does its visual form. Then there's the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. This is the place to find all things video related to this show. The Monday through Friday TV version of the show is there. Commercial free, 45 minutes every day waiting for you. It's fantastic. I promise. Extended conversations are there. Sometimes we run out of time with our guests because TV only gives us so much time. If we could do 3 hours every day, we would. Show would look a lot different, I could promise you. But I encourage you, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Sports Wrap Originals are there. We got a great one up there right now about preseason players that went from being nobodies to being somebodies, going back over the last 25 years. You're going to want to check that out as well. Also, Sports Wrap Shorts, news breaks. We jump in with Sports Wrap Shorts to tell you what's going on because we can't be on your TV 24 hours a day. That is Sports Wrap with Jason Page, YouTube channel. Subscribe today. The Sports Wrap website, sportswrap.tv. If you love us, if you hate us, send us your thoughts through there. We have a contact section at the bottom of the page. The aforementioned podcast is there. The aforementioned YouTube content is also there in varying forms. And we've got the Sports Wrap with Jason Page Substack, the Daily Wrap, available to subscribe to at sportswrap.tv. Right there, Sports Wrap, like I just hit a home run. sportswrap.tv. Go and subscribe to that today. And without any further delay on this Monday edition of the show, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, and it should be the end for Pat McAfee's singing career. What are we doing? To borrow a term from Tucker Carlson, who you'll never hear me quote otherwise. What's going on here? What are we doing? Pat McAfee came out with an album, a CD, whatever the hell kids buy today, last week. And apparently, some people at ESPN were complimenting it. It almost felt like they were being held at gunpoint and forced to compliment it. But Pat McAfee's got a new CD on. It's The Diary of a Polarizing Figure, is the name of it. But hey, we thought we'd have some fun today. Rumor had it there were a few lost tracks that either didn't make it on or hidden tracks that are on the CD that you might want to go and check out. So here they are, the 3 hidden tracks they didn't want you to hear on Pat McAfee's new album. Number 1, Sellout, the story of how he said he'd never have a bleeping ESPN show and then decided to take the bag of cash to the tune of like $70+ million. Congratulations to Pat McAfee, the sellout there. Number 2, My Daddy Aaron. This is a great song. A love letter to Aaron Rodgers, who can say anything he wants. And you know Pat McAfee will ultimately thank him for it. That's a great track. I wish we could have heard that one. Number 3, who? Me? This is an emotional ballad because Pat McAfee thinks the whole world is out to get him. And he's got to make everybody into a villain. He's got the Stephen A. Smith thing down pat, even though they're really not friends. An emotional ballad about providing the mic for controversy and then pretending you have no idea how it became a story. What? Aaron Rodgers came on my show and said what? I don't understand. I don't get it. Go and check it out. Pat McAfee, congratulations on your new album there. Congratulations to Scotty Scheffler, your winner at the FedEx St. Jude Classic this weekend, the first event of the golfing postseason, the FedEx Cup. Scotty Scheffler, your winner by 8 shots. Wow. Impressive for a guy that felt like, after the Amex earlier this year, simply couldn't close the deal. Well, he closed it to the tune of an 8-shot win when he came into Sunday, with a really short or small lead, however you'd want to describe it. Scotty Scheffler, your winner. Siwoo Kim finished 8 shots back. Jordan Spieth, out of the postseason, didn't finish high enough. How about Rory McIlroy struggling as well? 66th place? That is not getting it done. Joey Logano, your winner in Richmond. You didn't think we'd forget NASCAR, did you? Joey Logano is your winner. in Richmond. He wins there, his second win of the year. He just won at North Wilkesboro a few weeks back at a track he is very familiar with, so now very much in the thick of things as far as the chase is concerned. And congratulations to Diana Taurasi. She had her number retired into the Ring of Honor for the Phoenix Mercury. She is the GOAT in this day and age where we talk about all the great players of the WNBA. Let's just remember, as far as careers go, and she could frankly still be playing if she wanted to, none were better than Diana Taurasi, at least so far. Maybe one day Caitlin Clark will wind up being better than her. I don't know. But right now, it's Diana Taurasi and everybody else. Thank you to Sam Yarnell. Thanks to Bill Bender. I'm Jason Page. We'll see you tomorrow.